So if those who are covenantal members of Adam are placed under the law, then how is it that those people that are under the law can be under a curse? Where does this come from? Well, we look into Genesis and we talk about the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. These are covenantal terms saying that, hey, in this covenantal system that is only law abiding to those members that are included, which would have been God, Yahweh, with the covenantal members, and that would have been Adam and all of his descendants. We are not part of that community. We're not part of that at all. And so in the biblical text, we're reading into this, that this was a system that they held, this covenantal law. They were placed under that law, meaning that it had authority over them, that they had to abide by that. That was their system. That was their way of life, way of living. And so if you obeyed it, then you were living by the tree of life. If you disobeyed it, then you were living by the tree of the knowledge and good and evil. Okay? And so those people that were placed under the law could also be put under blessing or under a curse. So here in Galatians chapter 3, verse 10, Paul says, all who rely on observing the law are under a curse. So who could be cursed? It was only those that were under the law, that disobeyed the law. Then you were put in cursed position. He says, for it is written, cursed is everyone who does not continue to do everything written in the book of the law. So if you didn't obey everything in the law, and you broke it, then you would have been placed in a cursed position. Clearly, no one is justified before God by the law, because the righteous will live by faith. The law is not based on faith. On the contrary, the man who does these things will live by them. Christ redeemed the people, the covenant people, from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone who is hung on a tree. So Jesus died to take away the cursed position that was placed on Adam and all of his descendants. They were waiting for the one, the head of the covenant man, to actually fulfill all the law. And only Jesus did it. This is why it says that Jesus came not to break the law or do away with the law, but to actually fulfill it in all righteousness, which he did. And because he was able to do that, he then paid off the debt that first Adam had. And this is why Jesus is the last Adam. That when he went to the cross, that this curse that they were put under, because they had broken the law, they were put under the law, they had broken it, so they were cursed. How do you get rid of this curse? Well, according to their law, there was death involved, a covenantal death. So Jesus comes as their Messiah, pays off that debt, and now he resurrects, and this resurrection is now the new law, the law of the Spirit, where now people, the covenantal members, okay, to the 12 tribes, that they now can come back in, but not under the old head of Moses, but under the new head of Jesus. And that this was the only way that they can now come into being under the, not the curse, but under the blessing, the blessings. And so this tree of life, tree of the knowledge of good and evil, these were covenantal standings that the Bible is speaking of. If you obeyed, you were blessed, you were in life. If you disobeyed, then you were cursed and you were in death. This was the language, the covenantal language of the Bible. And what we're seeing is that it only pertained to those that were under the law. And if you had broken the law, then you were put into cursed position, thus talking about being under a curse. This is not for anyone outside of the covenant members. It is not for anyone for us today. Nobody after 70 AD. There is no curse, that God puts on people because of all of this. It was their terminology. It was their system, their covenantal system that we are now reading in the Bible, and we're going into there. We're excavating the truths and actually recognizing what the Bible is saying. So if you are that covenantal member, which none of us are today, that those people were under the law, those people, if they broke it, they were under a curse. My next video is going to talk about what does it mean to be under grace.